Recent changes over the discretionary factors of USCIS. So basically, there's been changes to the USCIS policy manual. The policy manual is basically the guidebook that the officers use that gives them instructions on how they should be adjudicating and deciding these cases. So this policy update clarifies how the officers should evaluate these discretionary factors when they're deciding your immigration case. So I believe the updates are reflected in Volume 1, Part E, Chapter 8. But one of the key provisions that I wanted to talk about today is one key provision states that the officer will consider evidence that an applicant has endorsed, promoted, or otherwise espoused the views of an anti-American or terrorist organization or group, including those that support anti-Semitic terrorism or ideologies, and that will count as an overwhelmingly negative factor. And so that is one new area that we haven't seen before, especially the part where it says those that support anti-Semitic ideologies. And so what we're seeing is that when somebody applies for adjustment of status or for legal permanent residency, or when they're applying for a immigrant visa outside of the country at the consulate, they are looking to see if they have made statements in the past, especially those that might be considered to be against Israel or in support of Hamas or some of those groups that are against Israel. And so that means that they could look through your social media to see if you've made any sort of posts or comments, or if you're involved in any sort of groups or any sort of protest activities. They can also even check your phone if you're coming in through the airports. And if you're on a visa, they could use that to deny a visa. So anything that's public post, contents that you've linked to, things that are publicly available and that you could find online. And they will assess whether they consider that to be an expressed or a supported view that falls into that anti-American or terrorist or anti-Semitic categories described. And so this is part of a broader trend where these government agencies are using just more stuff that they find online. And so everything that you're putting online, just be careful, be aware that it can be used against you in a lot of cases, especially if you're an immigrant or if you're trying to become legal immigrants or you're trying to become a citizen even. Some important clarifications would be that this is not a change in the law. The law is the same. However, it just changes the interpretation of how they want to interpret that law. The policy doesn't define every single possible term of what is anti-American or what is anti-Semitic. And so that leaves a lot of discretion to the officers. And so this is one of those problems where we'll see, are they going to be treating everybody similarly or fairly, or are they going to be singling out certain people or certain types of speech that they deem as non-American or anti-Semitic? There's no very clear standard of what would qualify and what might not qualify. Then there's also some other types of immigration benefits that are not discretionary. That means either you qualify or you don't qualify. And so that wouldn't really affect those types of benefits. But in most of these immigration benefits where somebody wants to become a resident, they want to become a citizen, those are going to be discretionary. What are the effects on you or on somebody listening to this video? Basically, just know that they're putting a greater emphasis in reviewing your public statements, your affiliations, your social media history as part of this vetting process. If you have any sort of controversial or ideological charged activity, you could have this affect you negatively if you're applying for something from immigration right now. And it might become harder to get these immigration benefits, especially for people who have had those public statements or affiliations. So bottom line would be, make sure to, one, include positive evidence. So include any evidence of community service, of strong ties, of following the law here in the U.S. That way, if you do have any negative history, you might be able to offset it. And then carefully review what might be publicly accessible. And definitely go talk to a trusted immigration lawyer that you'll be able to talk to, and they'll be able to explain to you what type of risks might be in your case. So those are some good information for everybody.